It's not working. Hey, welcome back, guys. BJ the Brave here, back with my brother in arms. We are back with some Warpforge, and we're just laughing because we're trying to get these cards on screen. If you hadn't guessed, we are bringing you the brand new cards for the Tau, or I guess the Kroot reinforcement drop to the Tau Empire. Ecclesiac, how are you, sir?
Doing all right, my friend. Doing all right. So, how you doing?
Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. Pretty excited to get some new cards because it's not been the greatest season, I'm not going to lie. So it's kind of nice timing to get some new cards. So I guess we should start by telling everybody that we are filming this on Tuesday night. And the plan is that the reinforcements will be out, the raid will be live on Thursday. So by the time you watch this, you're probably about 24 hours away from having access to everything that we're going to show you. And in addition to the reinforcement drop, we also have another big announcement, don't we, Ecclesiac? And I know you've been looking forward to this one, so I'll let you tell
I think
everybody.
I think that's the thing that's gonna be more exciting than the reinforcements. Though I believe Tau are also gonna be excited considering the nerf hammer they've received. But we are finally getting something big, gentlemen, and that is the alliance system.
Hooray!
And that is going to be a big deal because I know a lot of people who've been saying, I'm going to start Warpforge as soon as there's alliances. And can't blame the people. The competitive spirit and the whole community stuff is going to be there. So, yeah, surely an exciting change, and it can't come soon enough. Just like the new ranked system.
Absolutely. I mean, the only thing I want more is the rank system, but we'll take a reinforcement drop and the alliances. So without further ado, let's jump into the cards. What we're going to do, guys, is we are going to just show you all the cards for the reinforcement drop up front. We'll give you kind of our thoughts as we go. And then if you're just here for the cards, obviously that's that. But then what we're going to do, if you want to stick around for part 2 of the podcast, we're going to head over onto Ecclesiac's channel, and we're going to do our usual ForgeCast podcast. Excuse me, where we're going to talk about kind of what we've been playing this season, what we've been up to, and also our kind of thoughts on the current state of the game. So for those of you who always listen every other week, thank you so much for all your support. You'll know the drill. But for anybody who's new, who's just come to check out the cards, stick around, have a listen to the podcast. Without further ado, shall we jump in?
Let's go.
All right. So first of all, the War Shaper. We have a legendary warlord, and when we got these cards, Ecclesia, you sent me the same message about 4 times, which was to point out what.
Which was basically to point out that this is the first 30 HP warlord. So that answers a lot of your questions, boys, because one of the questions that has been asked a lot, and we even asked Andreas about this in the last podcast, was whether or not we would be getting some special warlords just like Swarm Lord, for example, that maybe has higher range, maybe has lower or higher health. And there you go, 30 HP warlords. And now, before you panic and say, what the heck? What is 30 HP? Don't worry about it, because in the sister game of Warpforge HHL, there's even 25 HP warlords, so it can work. Now, one thing I'm disappointed, however, in is that why is this just a War Shaper? I was expecting like a named character, or I don't know.
Yeah, I guess
it's a little weird.
I guess one thing we did kind of confirm with Andreas is that like where, like for example, Orkz are just goth clans, so that opens them up to do all the different kind of clans and whatnot. Like with Tau, it's just the Tau Empire. So for future expansions, they probably need more scope for doing, additional Kroot stuff. So we could get another Kroot expansion with name characters, and obviously I'm expecting Farsight and things like that. So that could be it.
Makes
So,
sense.
all right. So let's show what the talent Grizzly Feast is, because that might actually help answer and make sense of the 30 health as well. So, where's it gone? Here it is. So the Grizzly Feast, it costs 2 energy. Obviously, it's ephemeral, and it says give +1 melee this turn and +1 health to your warlord and infantry troops. And just to point out, that is not heal, that is give +1 health, so it can go above maximum health. So what are your thoughts, man?
I mean, it seems pretty interesting. It kind of makes you understand why this guy has lower health, because he has the ability to gain said health. Now, it also does give a board wide +1 buff, which is, of course, pretty cool. It's kind of a combination of Gaskell's ability, not Gaskell's ability, sorry, Morven Val's ability without the ranged bonus, plus Erica's health bonus. So it's not bad for sure. The only downside to it, I think, is that considering you get this Grizzly Feast, it's gonna help you trade, but the Warlord is quite low health. So unless the other cards are gonna help him swarm quite a bit, because obviously with drones you don't want to have melee attack, it might end up in a very awkward position. So I think we need to check out the other cards before we're actually able to judge how good this ability is. Though I do see the synergy there. He's got low health, so he has the means to increase it. Makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's one thing playing a lot of Erica has made me realize that, in many ways, I think Erica has more health than Morven, because she is starting at 35 in healing and he's starting at 40 without heal. He's hurting himself through penitence. So I think I really like this Grizzly Feast. I think it's and the other thing that's kind of interesting as well, just to note as we go through the cards, is the fact that Tau, the original Tau cards have very high range attack and very poor melee attack. Whereas what we're seeing in, obviously, as we would expect with the Kroot, right, they are the close combat warriors of the Empire, so we would expect to see that balance redressed. All right, so next up, let's have a look at the Kroot Carnivore. So, do you want to read this one?
Yeah, sure. So we got a 2 energy 3/1/2, so high melee, low range. So is the opposite of basic Tau because it's the Kroot. Makes sense. And you got a rally. If you control no other troops, add a Kroot Carnivore to your hand. This is actually quite interesting, and let me tell you why this is interesting. This already gives me an idea that it has a very good synergy with the Warlord, because you can drop this turn 1, and let's say if you play against the Swarmlord has no other way but to bash into it. It takes 3 damage, and you can keep doing this every single turn. And then on 4 energy, you can already drop it and max it to 3 health, which is pretty good. Plus, the good side is that it keeps coming back, so you're really not wasting any cards by playing this. So it's a very nice little filler card. And the good thing is, don't forget, even in the late game, it's not bad because it essentially has Tide. So you just drop it, it creates the second Kroot, and the second Kroot is no longer going to create a third one, but you're going to get 2 units on the board. So that really helps the whole buff the board thing, which is really good.
100%,
so yeah,
100%. I think it's even better in the late game. I think this is a good card. This might be like the first 2-drop crappy card that actually is pretty good. Like I said, the synergy to make that 3 health. By the way, the Fire Warrior's good now with this Warlord, right? The Fire Warrior also can be made 3 health. So a 4/3 for 2 is pretty good. But yeah, I agree. And like what it does is give you that card parity, right? Like you can basically just play this, and then you've refilled it anyway. So even if they just trade for against your range attack and kill it, it's like a grot with Gazgul, right? It's like you didn't hit my Warlord. You hit this, you took 1 damage, and I got the card back in hand anyway, so I didn't lose cards. So it's actually really interesting. Yeah, I actually think this could be pretty decent. All right, next up we got the CRout Hound. Now this card is really interesting. This is a 3 energy cost unit. It's 3 melee, 3 health, and it comes with camouflage. Rally, deploy a CRout Hound. So essentially, we are playing 2 of these for 3 energy. So we're getting 2 cards with, so that's essentially 6 health across 2 cards and 3 melee. I mean, this is really interesting particularly against like the Tyranids and Chaos, right, where they're coming at us with sort of melee only. And obviously the camouflage means that it can't be hit with point blank shot and all that sort of stuff. But what are your thoughts? What do you think?
that's actually pretty scary. This can range from shit to pretty scary. So let me tell you what I mean. Not even shit. It can range from okay to pretty scary, because let's say if you're playing the Ultramarines and they have an empty board, usually that is the case for 3 energy if you go first, nowadays at least. since they play tech like vehicles. You drop this, suddenly you have 2/3/3s on the board, right? So the Ultramarine will probably drop the Flanker, which is going to be the Inceptor, take one out for free, but the other one sticks. So that's actually pretty good. But then it cannot help take out the Inceptor. So in a way, in that situation, it's not that good. But let's say you play against the Tyranids and you drop this, unless the Tyranid has the Gargoyle, which is not like very often because that's pretty much, I think, the only flanker Tyranids get. The Tyranid is not suddenly not looking too good because they have very few ways of dealing with something like this. And the Shaper will start buffing this guy because every turn, then he's increasing their health and melee attack. And suddenly you're taking 8 damage next turn. And that's a lot.
That's
That's
right.
quite not even 8. Wait, you can buff it, and together with the Kroot Warlord, that's 11 damage. That is very scary. So I'd say in some situations it's going to be really good. In some situations it's going to be
not good against flyers. But one of the things you've got to consider, I think, with like these cheap units, the 2Es and 3Es, the 4Es, is like how good do they scale into the late game? Because it's all very well getting it on turn 2 and playing it on E3, but I think a marker of a good, really good 3E card is like, is it good in the late game? And I actually think what what we're seeing here already in these early cards is like this trend towards trying to establish a board, and particularly a go wide board that can actually stick. That could actually, because that's the thing about Warpforge, isn't it? You put something down, it gets removed. You put something down, it gets removed. And what we're seeing in this expansion is the kind of strategy of actually trying to get things to stick. So the synergy, like in the late game, of being able to drop 2 of these along with something else, like maybe you start with the previous card we just did, get the thing back in your hand, then you play these 2 out, then you play the duplicate that you got from the 2 drop, and suddenly you've got this like really wide board, and say, oh, by the way, you can't use spells to get rid of the Crittox Hounds because of the camouflage. So you're right, they'll get rid of some of it, but maybe not all of it. So you could set up a big turn. So kind of interesting. Let's keep going and see what else.
I think it's very well balanced though on paper, because 0 ranged attack really makes it like weak in a way.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we got the Trail Shaper. 3 drop.
So 4/4.
4/4.
So what's the rally?
So the rally is return a friendly infantry to your hand, lower its cost, but to 1.
That's a crazy synergy right there. Drop the Kroot Hound. Next, even if one survives, you play the Trail Shaper. It gives it back to your hand, and then you play it for 2 energy, possibly, which means that you get another 3/3. So if this happens on energy turn 4, not energy turn 5, you suddenly can play a lot of units.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because you can see how it fits into like an aggro build in that example that you just gave. But obviously, I could also see how it plays into a value build where, like, if we come onto some big infantry unit, like imagine like the Fire Warrior Kader, that's the 6 drop, for example. It's got like 6 health, sorry, and so it comes down, it trades with a big body, it's down to 2 health. You now play it back to hand. It now only costs 1 energy, which you can then drop in synergy with a wide board, and remember that card buffs all infantry, right? So you.
Oh wait,
yes, exactly.
I'm sorry. Wait a minute. It's lowered the cost to 1. Not
yes.
Holy shit, that's too powerful, I think, because look at that. If you drop like the Hound, next turn you get like on energy turn 4, you're playing this plus 2 copies of the Hound.
Yep.
Holy shit, that's
great.
That's gonna be scary.
I think this is a great card, and I have to say, like, I was really disappointed with the Ultramarine reinforcement drop. Not because of the power level was off the charts, but the card design was really poor. Whereas what I'm liking about this is like the card design is a bit more interesting. I can see like various different synergies there. And also, you've got to work for that. It's not like you just drop it and you get this OP ability. You've got to put a few pieces of the jigsaw together, but then it can lead to something powerful. That's the kind of thing I want to see more of, really, from a card design payoff. Is that kind of like payoff kind of synergy? And I think this card definitely has that.
Yeah, I'm just afraid of some very ridiculous power spikes, but other than that, I like the idea. I love the idea of just returning the cards in your hand and replaying. Maybe it should not be reducing the cost to 1, but rather by 2 or something. I don't know. I'm not sure. So let's.
Epic card as well. So obviously we can have two of
Hmm.
them in the deck.
I just find it very scary together with the CRout Hound, but
Yeah,
let's go on.
yeah.
I think it's a little too much.
All right. You like the artwork on this one?
I like the artwork. Okay, wait a minute. I want to think for a second. Uh, okay, maybe it's not that. I'm just thinking, how scary can this get?
It can
Maybe
get
not
very
that scary,
scary.
but
It can get
yeah,
very.
I don't know.
I think that I can't think off the top of my head of anything better than what I said with the Kader. Like being able to play a Kader that's already been on the board, right? So it's buffed all your board, all your board trades first, then you trade with the Kader, which can take out a decent mid-range unit, gets down to 2 health, bring it back, now you refill the board, and then you play a Kader for 1 energy, buffing the whole board. I mean, that if you could pull that off, I mean, obviously this is a late game combo, but if you pull that off, I mean, the value in that is absolutely off the charts. Like
Hmm.
it'd be amazing, absolutely amazing.
Well,
Yeah.
let's move on and
Let's
let's
move on.
see.
Oh, and the other thing we didn't say about like a big infantry like a Kader, or to your point, the Hounds, is what happens if you then the next turn play a Devilfish, and now you get to bring that guy on for 1, and so he's got flank as well.
Yikes.
It's pretty insane. All right, let's move on. Okay, so next up we have, I love this one. So this is the Crittox Rider. So this is a 4-drop. We've got that Dialogus kind of body, you know, that kind of like for 4 energy, the 5 health, which is always good. 1 more than the energy cost is always what we're looking for there. And then the nice even stats of the 3/3. I think it means you can trade down. You can trade into things that have been played on the board so far. You can't trick the trade with it, which I really like. It does mean that obviously it doesn't trade as well in the later game. It's definitely one that you want to be playing kind of like on curve. But the big thing here is that it has rally, deal 2 damage to an enemy, and as far as I'm concerned, these abilities are very powerful. Like anything that has immediate impact like that, you know, you do this and then your Warlord trades, that's a 4 health unit you've just got rid of. Obviously helps take out flyers as well and things like that. So my thoughts on this is that power-wise, this is a very, very good card. Um, However, and I am going to say it, from a card design perspective, I think it's a bit boring. I don't think it's that great. We've got so many of these where it's just like the game is feeling a little bit like we're printing new cards, but we're not adding new ways to play. It's like, how many rally deal 2, deal 3 damage cards have we got? It's just insane. It's just like a reprint of the same card. And it means that we end up with these decks that are just like play the biggest stats, give flank, hard removal, and that's kind of it. And so where that previous card we're like, ooh, there's some interesting synergies. It's doing something new, something different. This card is an example for me of one that's very good, very powerful, but it's not particularly interesting or adding new ways to play. What are your thoughts?
I agree in terms of like power. This card definitely goes into S tier for my opinion, because like most 4 drops are gonna have 4 health, and like this will help you take it out. Then it leaves a 4 energy, 5 health, 3/3 body. It has equal melee and ranged attack. Really good. This is the Dialogus, but a gazillion times better,
Oh yeah,
basically.
it's way better than
But
Dialgus.
but Dialogus is way more interesting. That's the different.
Yeah,
That's the difference because, well, I think they changed it. It no longer gives Vanguard.
yeah,
I
it's
guess
Shield
they
now.
changed it so that the Celestine abuse is not there.
Yeah, who the
But
hell came up with that idea?
but let's be honest, I'm kind of, I might as well put it out there. I'm very unhappy about that change because who played Dialogus and Celestine that much anyway, right? In terms of competitive decks, Celestine is not that present, so it was not necessary to change it, I think. But that aside, as for this card, yeah, it's boring. It's just your generic, oh, big body, good rally, I'm a good card. So, nah,
Yeah.
nothing too interesting. Unlike the previous cards, all 3, which I really like in terms of being interesting, this one's pretty
Yeah, yeah,
stale.
I agree. I mean, like, I was thinking like the only thing that might mean it's not S tier is like, how good is this on like E8 or E9? It's like it's not great. The stats aren't great, but the fact that he deals 2 damage still make it okay because you can
Can
still
go
help them.
face as well.
Yeah, yeah, and it's infantry, right? So you know that thing about being picked back up and played again because it's got a rally effect. It's like a machine gun, isn't it? So it could be.
And you got the Devilfish as well.
And the devil. Oh god, man, can you imagine? Devilfish is going to be so broken. It's going to be so good.
Yep.
All right. Although they did change technological supremacy, right, which was the thing that buffed the devilfish and made it really hard to kill. So there is that to consider. But anyway, let's stick on this expansion. Okay, so next up we have a legendary card. I am really dying to get your opinion on this one.
I mean, no. Like, no. I mean, I'll be honest, uber cool, but no. Just no. I mean, bro, listen. So this is like so terrifying. Imagine somebody playing a swarm type of deck. Like, let's play somebody's playing a scarab. And it's like late into the game, and you drop this, and you play an AoE, and suddenly your warlord has like what, 10 attack? This can go really out of hand, but at the same time, and I'll be like honest, I kind of like it. It's interesting. It's just that I also wonder, since it has when an enemy dies, if I bash my Scorpec Destroyer into it, does it still trigger that ability? That's the question. Or does it not because it dies? That's a good question. That's gonna need testing. But this is like very good, first of all, because you can just drop it while you're able to take out an enemy, and you already have +1 to your warlord because it's units, right? It's not your infantry, it's just units, including itself, by the way. So it's essentially when you play it's probably gonna be 6/5. Your warlord is gonna get to +3. And if it sticks, it becomes pretty crazy.
So the +1 is permanent, right?
Yeah, and if you got a devilfish on top of that already in play, yeah, I don't know, man. This seems like an interesting card, and it also has a camouflage which kind of forces you to sacrifice something into it. I have a feeling that this is gonna make some games like stupid as hell. I this reminds me of a World Eater card from HHL. It was called Argus Brond, and it was a 4/6, and every time it was damaged, its melee attack doubled. So people sometimes got it to like 80 melee attack. But the difference is that that thing could not like instantly grant you value. You had to drop it, stealth it, then get the right cards and so on. But this one seems like you can just drop it, you can kill something with your warlord, and yeah, there you go. You already have +1. In some situations, +2. I think this is an interesting card in terms of card design, but this has chances of becoming very stupid. What do you think?
I'm wondering if we're looking at like a card that can kind of go from being potentially one of the worst legendaries in the game to potentially one of the best. Like it has that kind of range, like from its floor to its ceiling, right? There's going to be some games where you
Mm-hmm.
play this and then like you're nothing and your opponent just squig buggies it and takes it out and think that's all she wrote. But then I think what I like about this, I agree. I think from a card design, I'm giving this like a 5. Like I think this is really interesting, and it's clearly geared towards a different way of playing, right? Like it's about timing. This isn't just drop this on 5 like a tempo card.
Mm.
This is all about a finisher piece. So I've lined up the board in the ways you and I have been describing on some of the earlier cards. We get this board state where it gets to like E8, E9, and we want to play our finisher. We get this wide board. We cast our Warlord power, which gives everything +1 melee attack. And then as things trade and die, the rest of the units get +1 again, and then the next one trades and dies, and then everything gets +1 again, and then so it becomes like a Mexican wave of +1, and then you end up with this giant one unit that kind of like smacks, which is probably a warlord, and smacks for the finisher. Now that's all me theorizing it in my head, but if it plays out like that, that could be a lot of fun because there's nothing like that in the game right now, really. Um, and it would take some setting up, almost like a more interesting Storm of Fire effect, or even the bloody Tyrannid Ravenous Hunter. But again, you got to work for it more. You got to set it up more, which is obviously good because those cards are broken. Um, so yeah, I kind of feel like this is going to be one of those wombo combo, hard to pull off, like to get the max power. But when you do, oh my god, it is going to be Leroy Jenkins, like hilarious. Yeah, super fun.
Yeah, I guess so. That is that is what it is.
All right, moving on, we have the Crittox Rampager. This is a 6 energy cost card. It is a 6 melee, only 2 range, 6 health epic card, and it says flank. Hey, rally. Gain +3 this turn, +3 melee, that is. Obviously, +4 if you use your Warlord ability, so potentially this could be a 10, 10 melee flanker. Okay, you go first on this one.
You gotta be joking. Like, what the fuck?
Just why?
Is this the is this the is this the answer? Is this the actual answer to the Predator tank? Is my question.
Oh yeah,
or,
the
or
smash.
what are we doing
It's
here?
this
Yeah,
smashes the
because
Predator tank for sure.
I mean, is that the idea? I am kind of surprised about this because it's not cool. It's not cool because first of all, it's generic. Well, I mean, the art is cool, but it's a generic flanker, nothing serious, nothing interesting. And on top of that, it's like plus it's 9 damage. Like, really? I do understand that the Tau always had like a bit of a lack of removal, but this is too much because you're giving them an ability to have 2 crazy flankers and then follow up with a long strike. I just don't think this is nice. I think this is a little bit too much. 9 damage is way too much. If this was really made to counter the Predator tank, that's not a good idea because the Predator tank needs nerfs. This is not going to help. I don't know how to feel about this card. It's just stupid. I mean, there's nothing good about it. In terms of power, yeah, S tier, sure. Why? I don't see why you do not include at least one of these in your card. Sure,
So we got.
it's a great card, but
Do you know what? I'm almost wondering, like, the 2 should maybe be the healthier because at least if you're gonna make it like have 9 attack, then you could say yeah, it can take anything out, and you're like yeah, but so can no mucking about, and no mucking about does that for 4 energy, right? But to have 6 health means we can trade and stay on the board. Oh, and by the way, we can then use the Flesh Shaper that we showed you earlier to bring this back to hand, and now it only costs 1 energy to reflank. So for 1 energy, which by the way makes it really easy to then combo with the hero talent, which would then make this a 10 melee flanker for 3 energy. Well, 1 plus the Warlord talent. I mean, now the only thing, and I can speak to this because I played a lot of Tau when it came out. The only thing is, I would say about Tau is that outside of a battlesuit archetype, Tau actually don't have many flankers. Right, we're not. This is not Orkz. There's not like we literally have the Vespid, which is like two power flanker. So actually, it is unique. And what Tau did struggle with is if they got behind on board, they didn't really have anything to come back onto board with unless they had like a Devilfish combo. So and they have nerfed a lot of the Tau units so that it's harder to tempo out and stay ahead these days. So when you look at the big picture, was there a hole for a high-powered flanker in the Tau faction? Yeah, absolutely, there was. There was Long Strike and there was Vespid. That was it. So I can understand that, but I'm really not enjoying this card design. These types of it's like it reminds me of the Outrider from the Ultramarine one, which is absolutely busted for 3 energy. The 5 power flanker. I don't understand what where we're going. Like, why would anyone play anything else when we've got these kinds of cards in the thing? So, yeah, S tier power, 1 out of 5 card design. Anything to add on that one?
get rid of it.
Dude, I swear to God, the day someone just removes my Devilfish with this, and then
Oh my god.
bounces it back to their hand, and then replays it for 1 energy, and then removes my bloody Enforcer battlesuit that cost me 6 energy and only has 4 melee. So I'm just gonna, I swear that I'm just gonna, oh God. Anyway, yeah, times. Next up, we have the Long Spear. You want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. So pretty cool art, by the way. 7 energy, 6/6/8 camouflage, blast 3, and rally. If you control no other troops, gain flank. Now, this is the better version of the other one in terms of design, but I'll say a few problems with it. Now, it's a better version because it's versatile. When you play it, you can either use it as a flanker and lose your camouflage, or you can make it stick as a camouflaged unit with high health, and it's hard to remove. Let's say your opponent doesn't have something on the board, right? You could just play it as a drop as well. And you could then buff it with Onva, you can buff it with, because don't forget, guys, you're not forced to play Kroot with the Kroot Warlord, right? You can get this on Onva. And imagine Onva like buffing this with shields and stuff. It's pretty crazy. So it's basically the Hemlock, to be honest. It's just a better Hemlock in a way because it has less. It's not flying and has less range damage, but it has the ability that Hemlock has for no Spirit Stones, and it has camouflage. Do you know what the problem I have with this card? On paper, I actually like it. I think it's pretty cool, but the problem I have it is you already gave us a 6 energy big flanker. Now there's another one. And then there's long strike. So you have like 6, 7, 8 consecutive high health, high damage flankers. This is going to be very, very toxic in a sense. I will be honest, I don't think this unit needs flank. You know what I think this unit could be? This unit could be what it is, but it could have rally if you control no other troops gain camouflage. Now that would be a cool unit because you get this very cool body and it's conditioned that if it's the only thing on the board, it gains camouflage so that it doesn't instantly take back the board, but it becomes a problem for your enemy because now your enemy has to either choose to ignore it or they have to like trade, right? So yes, I think remove the flank. What do you think?
Well, clearly, it's a very good card. It's a very powerful card. I really like the combo of camouflage and blast. I'm surprised we've not seen that more. That from a design makes a lot of sense. We have a lot of useless blast cards in this game. Sorry. And having camouflage on, especially on a big unit, makes a lot of sense, right? Like we all know how good Venom Crawler is in Chaos when it gets camouflage. So like that's really cool. I love that design, and I think it would stick with 8 health and camouflage, right? And it would then even if they want to try and use flankers to get rid of it, like it has the 6/6, so it can't be traded. I kind of agree with you. The flank almost feels like overkill, although it does say if you control no other troops. There's a slight clawback, but it's not much. It's super powerful, and my main worry is, like you said, I think it's the card before that we just showed, which is silly, and my worry is we're just looking at yet another flank deck. Like all the decks at the minute in the game are just that's what they do. It's just flank removal, and like you said, it's like 6 you play the other one, 7 you play the Lone Spear, 8 you play a long strike, and yeah, flank city. But taking this card on its own, I really like the stats. I really like camo and blast. And do you know what I'm wondering as well, Ecclesiarch? Because if you look at the last two releases, you and I for a long time have campaigned for the bigger units being more powerful than what they currently were. And so I know everyone's complained about the Predator, and when we get onto the podcast bit, we'll talk more about the Predator because I really want to get your thoughts on it. But I'm wondering whether what we're seeing is an intentional step up in the power level of the bigger units. Which, if that is the case, and that's the plan across the board, then I think they need to get a balance patch out for some of the, to beef up maybe some of the Eldar and some of the other units and stuff. And I would say that's a positive thing. If you just see the Predator on its own, you go, oh my god, what are we doing here? But if that's an intentional thing, that's good because we have a lot of big units that just do nothing and never see play, right? This game is heavily tempo. These cards have a disadvantage because they cost a lot of energy and many games won't even get on the board. So I'm just wondering, because this is like the second one now where we're seeing, it seems to me like the power spike has gone up for these bigger units. And so, I don't know, what do you think to that? Am I paranoid,
I
or
mean,
are
if
we
it's
onto something?
if it's a plan for across the board, sure, that would be interesting. But then it should be done soon because. But I think let's discuss that on the podcast. I think the problem with the Predator is that like it crosses the line between good and overtuned. Like that's the thing. As for this card, I like it, but I think it's all like overkill. Get rid of the flank, and you can make it like a 3-6-6-8 body and give it rally. If you don't have any other troops, gain camouflage, or even camouflage and blast if you want. Like it doesn't matter. It would be a very interesting troop. Let's move on.
Alrighty, so now we're on to, I think it's our first stratagem, right? Which is the Hidden Hunters. It's 2 energy, and it says give +1 melee attack and stealth to your infantry troops. So again, we're seeing that tag infantry, right? It doesn't work on vehicles. It doesn't work on blah blah blah. So it's purely an infantry build, but kind of reminds me of the Tyranid one. What's the Tyranid thing? Because the Tyranids obviously you play
Encircle the prey.
Circle the Prey. Now, obviously, with Tyranids, you play that on a Synapse creature so that you get to hide the board, right? You get to hide 3 units. That's why that's so good in Tyranids, and all the other stealth ones, like the Eldar one and the others, they're nowhere near as good and not as often seen played because they can only stealth 1 unit. But this is saying give stealth to all infantry troops. So it to me, this is on a power level or close to a power level of the Tyranid one. Obviously, it costs more. It does cost 2 and not 1, but it potentially can hide more than 3 units, right? So there's an upside there, and it's buffing as well for the +1 melee. So you can set up a board here. Back to what we said earlier about. Seems to me like this reinforcement drop is enabling us to create a kind of board that sticks and a go wide board. We can now play cheap units, go wide. We can stealth, get the +1. Then next turn, when our energies reset, we can use our hero power to get the +1 again. Maybe you drop that legendary, giving the +1 every time something dies. Melee attack could go through the roof on these boards. So yeah, really interesting. I do think if it doesn't just become another kind of all flanking deck, that is, if we can get this kind of go wide strategy going, this could be really interesting. What do you think to this one?
I mean, this gives me kind of a zoo deck vibe, you could say.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely very interesting. It can be annoying, obviously, but I think overall this is good. Once again, I'm just worried that there might be some things that might be busted in this release, but on its own, this to get coupled together with that swarm element, I think is really good. I actually find it pretty interesting. I'd say it's going to be an interesting thing to run the infantry deck, at least.
For sure.
Minus the flanks. So.
Sure. All right. So then we got the Thundering Rampage. A 2 energy cost stratagem, which says give +2 to a friendly unit this turn. If it's infantry, give it flank as well.
No, why do we need so much flank is my question. Like, haven't we learned Okay, I'll be honest. The reason why everybody has always hated Orkz, and I have a hard time hating Orkz because I love the Orkz, but the main reason why people used to like moan about the Orkz a lot, and I can totally understand, was that they had a ton of flankers plus a ton of hard removal, right? But one of the biggest things that people were saying is playing Orkz is no fun against the Orkz because they flank everything you play. And, we could kind of understand that because that was the Orc thing, I guess. It was what made Orc special, right? But now that everybody is getting a ton of flankers, it's kind of introducing a very uninteresting and toxic gameplay because just imagine how many flankers Tau will get now. Like, you could even, I don't know. I think it's unnecessary. Maybe instead this could be give +2 melee attack to a friendly unit this turn, and maybe camouflage until the next turn or something, right? So not this turn, but maybe just give it +2 and camouflage, or +2 and stealth or something,
Yeah.
because the flank is just not. By the way, it's not going to be necessary, I think, because you already have tons of flankers,
This is going to
and
see
you got
play.
a devilfish.
This isn't going to see play. It's one of those stratagems that's in every. Again, they keep printing these same cards in every faction. I just don't. I just feel like if we're going to release new cards, we should be adding to the card pool, right? We should be bringing something interesting that allows us to build decks differently. I'm not sure this is. This won't see play, like you say. We've already got a lot of flank. So the
Is
last.
is
Oh,
is
sorry.
the generic 2 energy
Yeah,
flanker that
exactly.
every faction has? Like, yeah.
So the last card is different. It's the Hunter's Instinct. It's a 4 energy card. Stratagem, obviously, and it says deploy 1 Kroot Hound for each damaged enemy and give them flank. That favorite ability that you don't have enough of. So it's kind of got a spawn them vibe, right? But obviously they've got to be damaged. What do you think to this one?
I just think it's bad because I mean, it summons a much better unit than Spawndom does. But the problem is everything has to be damaged, right? So let's say your opponent has 2 damaged units, then it summons 2 units, right? It's not that good because for playing the regular Kroot Hound, you're playing 2 Kroot Hounds for 3 energy, right? With this, you're playing the same thing with flank, sure, but for 4 energy. And if you want the unit to be damaged, this is not even a reactive play, because if you want the enemy to be damaged, sometimes you'll have to face bash with your warlord, which is not good because that means you're taking damage on your warlord, right? As it is. I
Yeah.
think it's not good.
I don't think it's good either. I think it's. I'm trying to theorize this one. I think it's a bit like it's a trading up tool, right? So if the idea is that we're going to have this wide board, but we're not particularly high attack, how do we get rid of bigger units, right? And so I think the idea is you've got your 3-4 units on the board. They play their big unit. You sort of attack with your smaller units first. Obviously, you're not going to clear it. They're damaged. Now you refill. You'll go wide with the Hunter's Instinct or something like that. But I do think it's going to be massively situational, right? And situational cards and I don't see this one being great. Maybe a one-off in a go wide build. I'd definitely try it, but at the minute I'm struggling. Let us know in the comments what you guys think to this one for sure, because we're scratching our head and our beards and everything else trying to figure out like why. But it's definitely not the best card in the force. Um, okay, so that's it. That's it, Ecclesiarch. That is, we've just covered obviously the Warlord, the other legendary, and then the other 8 cards. So that is the reinforcement drop, guys. It is going to be dropping, as we say, on Thursday, along with the Alliances system. So we don't have any further details on that, but I believe that EG are releasing a newsletter tomorrow around the time that this is coming out. So check that out, and you should have more information. If you like hanging out and listening to Ecclesiarch and I talk about Warpforge, then head over now to Ecclesiarch's channel, where we're going to pick up in part 2 of this week's podcast. We're going to be talking about our experience of the current meta and what we've been doing this season. And also, we're going to just kind of give our thoughts really on the current state of the game after the Ultramarine reinforcement drop came into being. Other than that, bye from me.
Okay, that was good.